My name is Akosua. I am the Assistant Director here at the Jacob H. Carruthers Center, and I am a proud alum. I received my master's from here. So this space is very special, near and dear to my heart. Welcome, students, faculty, staff, and guests. We are pleased to have you in our sacred space for our Women's History Symposium, focusing on healing through the arts. Here at CCICS, we foster culture and community, and we are honored to bring you this program today with these global art innovators. Today, we are honored to feature Mama Akosua Bandele, Baba Marvin, and Mama Brenda Winstead. Akosua Bandele is a Chicago native, jewelry designer, and artist born into the tremendous creative energy of the South Side of Chicago in the 1950s, when creativity was abundant and celebrated. As a young adult immersed in the politics of Black cultural movements of the 1960s, Africa loomed large as a source of creativity and inspiration. Mama Bandele studied fine arts at NEIU right here, and traveled to Ghana, West Africa, to study with master craftsmen at the University of Science and Technology in Kumasi. As a founder and owner of Artware Chicago, she mastered the art of transforming culturally related retail environments into centers of community, art, education, entertainment, and empowerment. She has lent her design talents to creating beautiful interior spaces nationally and internationally. Next, Brenda Winstead is a self-taught designer based in Maryland. For the past 30 years, she has created and marketed the Damali Collection, a line of new African-style clothing for women and men. The Damali Collection is exquisite and uses hand-woven and hand-dyed African fabrics, often combining format reminiscent of quilt making. Winstead has traveled to numerous countries in West Africa, particularly Mali, and it has given her the privilege of collaborating with master artisans who hand-dye and weave fabrics to her design. Marvin is the principal designer and curator for the art of leather. A master crafter, Sin has been creating and innovating leather designs for over 50 years. I don't think we want this. I don't think I'm going to close that. We don't want to be any distraction. My apologies. Let me start that over. As a master crafter, Sin has been creating and innovating leather designs for more than 50 years. He is renowned for his fine art craft leather accessories that blend elements of drawing, carving, sculpture, and painting, fine art imagery, and handcrafted leather accessories. His repertoire of imagery is expansive, incorporating Kemetic Egyptian icons and symbols, African sculptures, symbols, textiles, patterns, and contemporary and traditional representation of African people and cultures. Currently living and working in North Carolina, Baba Sin has most recently begun a project to establish production for the art of leather in Ghana, West Africa. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, kings and queens, please give a round of applause for our wonderful guest artist and welcome them to our artist. Enjoy. Mama Bandele.
Good morning. Good morning. It is a pleasure to see you all here. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be introduced by my wonderful daughter, if you all didn't know. So proud of her, and thanking you, Akua, for inviting us here to close out Women's History Month, which would have been yesterday, but we started yesterday, so we can just, every day is Women's History, okay? So, you do know that. I have been tasked to, what is my topic? Wait.
The power of healing through art.
The power of healing through art. Thank you very much. And I particularly want to just touch on the reference of this center, the Carruthers Center. It is a phenomenal space. It has a history that goes back, that incorporates this being a sacred space for African people. Whether people know they're African or not, this is where we needed to be, and this is where they ended up. So I have a history here that goes back, how old are you? 40 plus years. I was employed here, as well as we started a grammar school here, Blyden Center, here in the with Baba Jake, who was one of who the center is now named for, who's a as I say, cultural icon. He and several other, and I'll mention them, you know, as I go through this. But this space, I mean, it's like a full circle for me to be here, to make this, be in this space, make the presentation, and be here with you today. We are African people, and as I'm always reminded, we're really in a foreign land because, you know, we would not be here if we were not stolen. So we have made the most of where we landed, and we continue to create our spaces to comfort us, to heal us, to make it possible for us to exist in a space like this. And more than ever now, we need to come together to create spaces to heal, to bring joy. And getting back to, I did have a few notes. I wanted to make sure I did not forget some people that I want to talk about in this space. As I said, I've come full circle, and the people that have, as I say, I stand on their shoulders from this space. Some of them have passed away. Baba Jake, Baba Conrad, educator, historian, Baba Anderson Thompson, in their classes, and I had the privilege, as I say, and honor to have studied with Baba Jake and Baba Anderson Thompson. And when I say a phenomenal experience in terms of imparting information, and as I say, you really get it, and you're immersed in it, and you know that this is who you are. They help to center you, to make you know that this space and what they're imparting are going hand in hand. So also, historically, this space has held many forums and many people that have created, like the communiversity. Bobby Wright, who has also transitioned, and recently his wife, Easter. We have the Comedic Institute here that is still viable. And there are classes, there are forums, there are workshops that are held here. This space used to be a community center, used to have art galleries, or not art galleries, but art and dance studios. The creator of this, or the redesign of the building, was done by a Black architect whose name I can't remember right now. But this space is just a very important space. Now, to talk a little bit about what happens when we come to a space. We travel and gather people all over the country and the world, really. Brenda in her travels to Mali and other parts of Africa. I've traveled with her and other people from time to time. And it's glorious what we, see, how it impacts us, what we bring back, and how we share with our community. In a space, we try, in our exhibitions, we bring the color, we bring the fabric, we bring greenery, flowers, art, and all of this is to create an environment that is warm, inviting, comforting, and as I say, bring joy, because we all like beauty, I think, and beauty brings joy. So that's what I attempt to do with the space at all times. It's like it's an extension of everything, as my mother should say, everything should be about beauty. You should look to make things more beautiful. And I love embellishing, and I like, as I've been told, I'm the queen of fluff. So I try, I try to do a little of that, and and what happens in the space is that our kindred spirits come together, and we share, we fellowship, and we love. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Mama Brenda.
Great morning and welcome. My gratitude for the invitation to talk with you and be with you today. I've been coming to Chicago since the 90s, and this has been one of the places in this country that has always welcomed me and supported my work, and I truly appreciate that and want everyone to know that. As Akosua said, I'm a self-taught designer. I got started about 30 years ago, and the inspiration for getting started and even doing this business was Africa. I went to Africa in the late 80s and was simply amazed by the way the women adorn themselves. I kept, I could hardly stay, keep my attention on, the focus of the trip, seeing historical sites, for looking at the clothing, quite frankly. And just decided that, I needed some for myself, because I've always considered myself a fashionista, a person that loved to dress and adorn. And so initially I was really just getting some things for myself, quite frankly. And then as people would see me at home with the various things, they would want to ask me where I got them, and this is sort of how the business literally got started. And in the 90s, I started doing some of my own design work. I fell in love with the Bogolan Fini, which is commonly known as the mud cloth, and that's where I really got started making coats and even hats and just pants, just different items. And I would really have to say I always say it's the greater sister hookup grapevine, so to say, that has put Damali, where she is, because it is you that have talked about it, have worn it, have rah-rahed me on, and for that, I'm really grateful. For me, one of the important things is that joy leads to healing. And joy comes in many different ways. I remember being in a workshop, and they said that one of the presenters said that when you go to a traditional healer in the motherland, one of the first things that they ask is, because you're sad or whatever, is when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? Because these are the things, and our willingness to adorn ourselves, these are the things that bring us healing and bring us joy. And our joy comes, from the way that we adorn ourselves. Another thing that was very important for me is that, because I had mentioned, we're in a country where we're told, you have to dress this way, you have to do this, and not even really appreciating, what we come from, the greatness that we come from, all the different ways that we can adorn ourselves. And so part of my role was to let women know that we can decide how we want to adorn ourselves. It may be traditional, it may be with African accents or whatever, but the main thing is having the ability to know that you can decide how you want to adorn yourself. That's the most important thing, that you can make that decision. And so and the other thing that was very important to me is to work with various artisans in helping to promote their work and helping to sustain their work. Because I fell in love with it. Many other people have fallen in love with the fabrics that come from the motherland, and they possibly could be dying out if we don't support it. So for me, I made a lot of different connections with women in Mauritania, women in Guinea, and men, and Mali that I go to like every year. There's a lot of you know, I'm an indigo lover, and so this is something that
Really?
you'll see me you'll see me in quite often, because it is a magical color. Before indigo, there was the sky was blue, the sea was blue, and there was hardly anything else that was blue. And so you can imagine when they came about this fabric and this ability to dye things blue, it was a mystery and quite exciting. And I just call it our new black, it's our blue, and everybody looks good in it, regardless of what shade or complexion. You all look great. And this is one of the reasons that I fell in love with it, and it's probably our biggest seller, so to say. So yeah. But in addition to the fact that it has all these wonderful stories about it, and that it's a wonderful fabric. And again, my emphasis is on, when we adorn ourselves, it brings us joy, and then that joy is extended to everyone that we meet along the way, because we feel good, and that is just carried out to everyone that we meet along the way. And we're also, it helps us to preserve part of our heritage, and decide how we want to adorn ourselves. It's very important. So I'm going to turn it over to Marvin.
Thank you.
I guess it's still morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I lose track these days. I too am deeply honored and grateful to have been invited into this space for this event and this program, and to share some ideas about who we are and what we do, especially in the context of the utilization of art to heal and to empower. Before I begin, I want to give some just context to center the remarks. As has been mentioned, we are African people. People think of Africa, they think of the continent of Africa. And there's Ancestry.com, and people tracing their ancestry to see where they originate from. I've kind of bypassed that, because so much work has been done already over and over and over again to demonstrate conclusively that wherever in the world we are connected. And you can study that forever, or, as I think we have chosen to do, is to stand on that information and move it forward. And that has led me to an analysis as an artist. And when I claim the identity of an artist, there are places in the world where that's kind of looked down upon. It's like, oh, you make things or you draw things. I was fortunate early to be given an understanding of my role as an artist that transcends my media or discipline. And I was challenged to use that same process of creating in the world. I was told in some way that if you can make a bag, you can change life circumstance. And so I experimented with that and found it to be true. That the same process of imagining with intention and seeing something, visualizing something, and then working towards it, that it will manifest in the same way that Akosua does jewelry, Brenda does a garment, I make a bag. That same process of seeing an idea in your mind, projecting it into the world, acting upon it, eventually it will manifest. What we don't have control over is the time it will take. But it's like planting a seed, and the intention that was built into that seed will ultimately manifest in its own time and space. Given that, as artists, through a project called the Golden Age of Black Art, GABA, we took upon ourselves the project of designing the African future. That if I can make a bag, I can make tomorrow. Okay. And so we have summoned our creative instincts, our imagination, our intention, to transform what tomorrow is going to be like. The real challenge about considering the future is that it's a projection 50 years into the future. We cannot change today. We can't even change next week or tomorrow, because somebody else's future intention is manifesting in that time. Because we did not 50 years ago plan for today. We are at the effect of somebody else's nightmare. But if we are going to escape it, we need to now plan and design and think about the world that our grandchildren will grow into, not even our children. So that's kind of the context. I went to Columbia University in New York. I was plucked out of Bed-Stuy and put into this Ivy League environment where I found that I was being trained to serve an alien master. That I was taken out of my community, deemed one of the brightest in that environment, plucked and put into this alien environment with the intention of separating me from my people and organizing me to serve them in a way that I was gonna think that I was, doing something wonderful. But in effect, I was picking cotton in somebody else's field. So I left Columbia, walked down the hill into Harlem, which was just blocks away, and I went in search of our world. If that was their world that they were designing me to serve, where is our world? And through the journey through Harlem, I found out that indeed we have a world. We have created in this space our own world. It is an African reality. It's not continental African, but it is African. Barbara Antier at the National Black Theater once asked an audience, and I was there, what if we had not come from Africa, but to Africa? And it took me years to digest that, but in effect, we are sitting in the midst of a Chicago African space, okay? I come from Bed-Stuy, Africa, okay? Wherever we are, we have used our genetic memory, our history, to imprint upon ourselves and absorb and create a culture reflective of our African sensibilities. And it's different everywhere. Chicago is wonderful because it is really the pinnacle of what I call the new African civilization. And because you live in Chicago, you take it for granted. But trust me, coming from anywhere else, this is the first place I landed where I was respected as an artist. I'd never experienced that anywhere else ever. But to come into a place and have doctors and lawyers, defer and bow down and honor me because I was a creator, gave me a sense of, what that role and responsibility was. So over the years, we've developed a deeper and more profound understanding of who we are and the role that we play and we serve. So you will come into a space of our exhibition where we're presenting our creativity, and it would look like a market. Essentially, it's the physician's office. You have come to visit your doctor, unbeknownst to you, because the level that we are functioning on is not intellectual, it's not political, it's not structural, it is definitively spiritual. And so when you walk into this space, it is your spirit that precedes you. When you come into this space, it is to heal your spirit. And it looks like we're doing business. It looks like, I like that, and put it in the bag and give me your card. That's the appearance of it. But when you come in here, whether you buy anything or not, whether you talk, you can walk in and walk out and never say a word. By the confluence of the energies that we have gathered, your space is being healed. And that healing, touching you then walk out into the world and carry it with you. So there's so much going on here that escapes the eye, but it is very profound as we have come to understand it. The idea, and this is another revelation, the creative process, in this environment, we think of it as I created this. Essentially, as artists, and every artist will tell you this, we're just vessels. We're just vehicles through which spirit passes through. And our role is to manifest it or to make it visible, accessible to an audience. But that's not the end of the process. It comes through us to you, but you are the messengers then. We're the conduits, but you're the messengers. When you take it, when you wear that earring, when you wear that garment, when you walk out with that bag, you are the messenger into the world, and you are taking that energy into every environment. And so it looks like, oh wow, where'd you get that? But no, you're healing. Okay? That person is thinking that it's an object that they like, but in fact, it's their spirit being gravitated towards some healing energy that's helping them in ways that they do not understand or comprehend, but it's profound, it's automatic. And, I wanted to talk then about the symbols. Professor Oblate Glover, I think in the late 60s, and then Professor Ansah, Kwaku Ofori Ansah from Howard University. In fact, he was the one who came to an NCA meeting and told us that he had gotten,
What's NCA?
Oh, the National Conference of Artists, I'm sorry, and told us that he had gotten permission from the Akan, from the Ashanti king, to allow artists to use Adinkra symbols in their work. So we're not appropriating this, we were given permission. And from, I guess, the early 70s up to this point, we have been utilizing these symbols. And working with these symbols, I have seen the transformational power of these symbols. And what are they? These are proverbs of wisdom distilled from generations. So the wisdom of generations is distilled in a proverb. That proverb is distilled into a symbol, an icon, an image. And trust me, these things, it's like radiation. They do not require your permission to affect you. If you are near them, in their presence, what that symbol represents is on you. So, I have passed out, some, or they're available if you didn't get one, some Adinkra charts. Many of you are aware and familiar of some of the symbols, but take some time and look at some of the others. I became aware of their power through the misinterpretation of a couple of them. Okay. And they are specifically the Aya and the Yink Yink Yim. And the Yink Yink Yim, the twisting and turning, that's like a maze, is the symbol, ironically, that African Americans gravitate towards, because it seems to represent the ability to withstand and overcome hardship. That is so true. But when you embrace that symbol, you are also calling for an endless stream of obstacles and hardship, each of which you will overcome. But the toll that it takes on your life is profound. Like I said, we looked at that. The symbol of the two crocodiles sharing the same stomach. That seems to represent unity and diversity, but what is it saying? Though we share the same stomach, yet we fight for food. I mean, these are warnings against a certain thing, not an affirmation of something. So as we look at these are really, really profound. I use the symbols, but on the front sheet are the symbols that I have experienced positive vibrations from over decades. These are the ones that I affirm, certify. So in my medicinal practice, this is the medicine that I dispense. So these are the ones that I use over and over and over again because of what they represent. The Insa, the ability to know the real from the fake. The Sankofa, the wisdom of learning from the past. And my all-time favorite, the Bese Saka. And it's hard for me to move beyond the Bese Saka, which speaks to affluence, power, abundance, and togetherness. So if there's a symbol that represents, my aspiration for us, that's the one I choose. And that's the one I always use. So, when I'm mixing them up, I'm putting that in there because that's the energy that I want to share. The other element of my work is what I call cultural Pan-Africanism. In the alien system, I call the plantation system, the system of our oppression, there's a political dimension that speaks to ideas of Pan-Africanism. And that has yet to manifest, and it will never manifest, because in that system, what we are looking at as nations are really competing franchises. These are competing businesses. We're looking at Rah-Rah Nation, they were created, territorially prescribed as an extraction project to take the resources from there and send them somewhere else. So those national boundaries in Africa that they carved up, and even the nations in the world, even America is not a nation, it's a business. I call it a mall. You think you're going to bed, you're going to Bed Bath & Beyond. You think you're eating dinner in your in the kitchen, you're in the food court. This is not a nation, rah-rah, I pledge allegiance. No, This is a hustle. And we were brought here as a part of it. And that's in the DNA of this. That's where they began, and they will never change. You can't change it. You can't unplant a seed after it becomes a tree. You know, you can't get a banana off a lemon tree. This is what it is. And so much history has been written about this, you know, but still people are trying to make it human, make it humane, you know. You can't live in the mall. We're here for business, and if we're smart, we're here to do business, to extract resource and send it somewhere else that will serve us. But as long as we're here, the irony of my whole career, 50 years, took me to realize that I'm thinking I'm free, I'm independent, I'm da-da-da, but every penny I made was spent back into building this thing that's killing us. You know, so that's why I'm in Ghana now, trying to find a way to extract from the US and send it somewhere that is going to do some good for somebody who looks and feels like me. So I encourage you to think long and hard about these symbols and these images. Put them in your house, logos, tattoos, whatever. We have an affirmation every day: wear something African.
Yes, yes.
You know, every day wear something. It could be a ring, it could be an earring, it could be a garment, it could be, but every day you leave your house, carry something with you to support you. And my experience with my work as it travels the world, and this is just information I'm getting back from people over the years. One, it attracts like-minded spirits. So when you wear this and people see it, they will know something about you and come to you because you're familiar, your spirit is open and receiving. It will also repel ignorant people, okay? Okay. It will tell them, no, pick the next one. You know, no, not this one. Let me go to the next. So it has that impact when you wear and manifest your affirmation of our cultural origins and spirit and power. It has an impact of the world. As profound or as subtle as you choose to do that, it matters every day. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, as artists, we're also having an intentional impact on the environment, the cultural environment. You know, there's a physical environment, there's also a cultural environment. And we are in an environment that is demonic. I mean, I can't think of a better word for it. There's like every day, every week, there's a new program on TV about devils and witches and warlocks and demons and it's murder she wrote, murder this, murder that, murder. I mean, what? I mean, so you're killing people for entertainment, really. Where is that real at? So we have a challenge to uplift and empower our own cultural reality. And it exists in ways that even those of us who live in it don't fully comprehend. So there's this two systems. We're aware of Diop's two cradle of civilization theory. Well, there's this two systems. When we talk about systemic racism, that means racism is part of a system. And the system is not a racist system. Racism is just a toenail of that system. It is so broad and vast in its manifestation of horror. But we have created a different system. We live in it. I know many of you live in it. It's a different value system. It's a different perspective of the world. and it's real and it's profound. It is a world unto itself. In this country, you know, if you have a short-haired poodle, there is a short-haired poodle world, okay? No, really. They have their own shows, their own publications, their own breeders, their own criteria, their own economics. There's so many worlds. We have a world, okay? And that is so profound because we have our own education, we have our own value system, we have our own economics, we have our own politics, we have our own worldview, we have our own spirituality, we have all of that we have created over the last 30, 40, 50 years that exists, and it is what has kept us alive and sane in the midst of this, you know. So there's too many people who don't know it, who walk by us and think, well, you're just another Negro. No, I'm an African. And I live in a different world than you do. Even though we're walking the same sidewalk, you know, my mindset is connected to another reality. And that has enabled us to live and work and stand in our own power and heal and be healed and continue to heal others. So I will leave it there, but we are in service to you, you know, so thank you.
We have a few minutes to open it up for questions, if anyone has any questions for the artist.
Comments?
Comments? Right.
Thank you.
I have a comment. As a performing artist and educator, I come to you for my healing all the time. And I leave here feeling nourished and inspired. And it is such a lift that I get from being in your presence. And it's also an affirmation. And it goes, those affirmations live deep in the soil of our Africanness. And the way that you explained it is beautiful. And I really appreciate your presentation and the depth of knowledge that you have about it. All of you, thank you so much for being beautiful lights in our world.
Comment again. As an artist, the three of you always give me something to be in this marketplace. It's always, it changes me. Every time I step in where you are, whether I get on a plane and go see you in DC or in Detroit or here multiple times, you change me. And I'm always thankful for that. And Marvin, you give such a floor to stand upon of understanding. Sometimes things we kind of know, but cannot articulate it. You give us those words. You give us a new lens in which to look at. And as an artist, I thank you. I thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to also add to what's already been said. For me, and Candace, you started this, but I'm gonna try to get through it. I have had situations in my life that were devastating and came to where you were, and the healing took place. The freedom to heal took place. The support that you gave with your hugs, you know, and just being around you, and a touch on the shoulder was powerful. And there's a power that exists when you create these spaces, wherever you are, in Faye's Gallery, you create these spaces, and when you come through the doors, when you enter, like you said, there's a power that's there that you can feel if you're receptive. But it touches you even when you're not. And I want to thank you, because this has been going on for how many decades? Decades and decades and decades. And it's constantly growing and evolving and getting better and better. And thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes. I'm from the west side of Chicago, as everybody knows. And piggybacking
We forgive you.
Piggybacking off what my sisters here have said, I remember, some of you remember the Progressive Arts Center.
Yep.
And I remember, I thank Theophilus Reed every day, because I didn't know what was going on the south side, because I was just one of those people that was just, I didn't leave off the block. So I was fortunate enough to know Theophilus, and he brought me to the Progressive Arts Center. And I remember walking up those stairs. It was like 1,000 stairs and very steep. And I heard this music, and I was like, wow, you know. So when I passed that threshold from the staircase into that room, the old D. Alexander died, and the new D. Alexander was born. Around the perimeter of the room were artists. I don't even know if you all were there, but I know Denswa was there. The Nyoti's jewelry. It was just the perimeter of one, and I was like, wow, this is colorful. And the music, Mawata was playing. The music was Rita and Ikwa were singing, and it was just like this. I was like, wow, you know. I was totally amazed, and I said, I don't understand this, but I love it, but I want to understand this. And every opportunity that I got, I went to an event. Met people on the set. I started going to different events, met Akosua and Marvin, you know, and my friends and my lifelong sister friends here. I've created such a wonderful family of sister friends as a result of this, what's the word I'm looking for?
God's got it for you.
As
Of our like minds and hearts.
Exactly, of our like minds and arts. And it, as an artist myself, it has pulled the creativity out of me that I didn't even know was there. I mean, I'm so inspired whenever I come to see and to talk to Marvin. And Akosua is my sister. She already know I'm getting ready to start crying. I'm trying not to cry. But I'm just so inspired by, and Candace, I'm so inspired by, and the bottom line is love. I love this, and you can feel the love and you can see the love. They love what they do, and they want to share the love with us, and it's just a wonderful cycle of love, above all else.
What about this as a place of healing? What can be done to bring more young people to understand this as a place of healing, and how they can, you know, also you mentioned planning our future 50 years ahead. We need to go starting them now. So what can we specifically do children and young people to know, to understand this as a place of healing?
It's very difficult. And, you know, I guess there's this balance between, you know, if a train is running through, or a bus is running through the community and hitting people and knocking them down, do you run and try to pull people out of the way? Well, that's important, but somebody needs to go to the depot and stop the buses from running. Okay, because as long as we are running to try to correct today's challenges, we're neglecting the sources of the problem, and that's kind of where we are right now. I so deeply lament the hijacking of hip hop culture by the plantation system, turning it into a toxic, debilitating energy that has certainly decimated 2 generations of young black men. I mean, with all deliberate speed. But it speaks to the importance of culture as a process of healing and uplifting. The project I'm working on now is trying to share this idea of this new African system and all that it has created, and hopefully where it goes from here, because central to that is the missing ingredient is a media system. We have not paid attention to the systematic deletion of our voices from media over the last couple of decades, to the point now where we are deaf and blind. We have no idea of anything happening in our community. You know, this is the first time I can remember where in this room we cannot collectively identify at least 5 black leaders. You know, where we can all agree, yeah. 20 years ago, there was a whole list, and everybody, yeah. And so there were voices coming, expressing our opinion and our perspectives. And so what we now have is black faces employed by the plantation to speak. Plantations speak to us. And we're thinking that they're talking to us. They're talking maybe about us, but not to our needs. And what we need is really a drum. We need a centralized voice that permeates and gets our message out. And it could be something very simple, a rhythm, a song, something that evokes and touches and empowers and connects the spirit. But we've got to disconnect from this system and empower our own system, because, you know, people are still thinking that there's some hope here. They're still thinking that, you know, if I protest or I vote, if I write a letter, if I campaign, that these barbarians will become human beings. It's not going to happen, okay? To them and to this system, we were brought here as farm animals. That's the perspective that's built into the DNA of the United States of America. And there's no way that changes. It can't, because that's where it began. That's the seed that was planted, and this is the manifestation of it. So, I mean, just the fact that last week they outlawed lynching. Last week, okay? And it doesn't mean you can't be lynched. It just means that there might be penalties now, okay? I mean, I know I'm not crazy, okay? And I'm looking at what's going down. I'm looking at the erosion of the quality of life in my lifetime. And I'm looking into the future, and I don't see any way that it's gonna get better. I don't see any bright lights on the horizon. I just think this thing is headed straight to hell, and we need to get off the bus before it gets to that last stop, okay? And there are messages in our environment. There's a movie called Get Out, okay? There's The Matrix, where they're showing you, you know, you can get into this artificial system, or you can get out. Gil Scott-Heron said, "This ain't really your life, ain't nothing but a movie." I mean, you know, God is not dead. Continues to speak to us if you're open to hear, but everything is trying to tell us, you know, which way to go. And there's this mythology that, well, you know, we fought in the wars and we pay taxes and I don't care how many Big Macs you eat, you don't own McDonald's. It don't work like that. I don't care how many Kellogg's cornflake box tops you collect, you're not going to be written into the Kellogg family will. It ain't happening. That's theirs. We need to focus on what's ours. I lament, you know, what's happening to our young people. But here, look at this. It's not that we don't have an example. They created an independent school here. And this is the product. Okay? I mean, it's not like we don't know, but we need to extract and bring those lessons forward and apply them. And right now, we don't need a building necessarily to reach our children. They're on electronic devices all the time. Well, let's put the information in the electronic device so that when they're doing this and that, we're getting to them early.
Let ads pop up. Let this pop up.
Let this pop up. Let's be creative. Let us be artistic in our methodology for solving our problems. Let's step out of the traditional lanes. Let's not march again. Let's not protest again. Let's not petition again. Let's use our intellect and solve these problems. Not, you know, respond to them. There are ways to solve these issues once and for all. It might take time, but at least I know that putting energy here will correct it by and by. And it's not for me to see it in my lifetime. You know, I'm just passing through here. We all are. But there was and I'll leave it here, a documentary, I think it was the Hellstrom Chronicle, about insects. And one of the pieces that fascinated me was the army ants. So these army ants, columns of like 10 miles long of ants marching somewhere. They would get to a stream, and the ants would just walk into the stream, drown enough to build up a land bridge for the rest of the ants to go across. Well, you know, we are just, you know, paving stones along the way. And it's for us to be the best stone we can so that those who follow us can step on us and keep on going.
So I like to, in closing, say the reason why we are rebuilding, and to your question, the youth have to know the history. So we have to reach back in order to connect them to move forward. And here at the Carruthers Center, we are recreating those spaces so that we can lay the foundation and invite those students in. We have programming for young people here all the time, but the foundation has to be here. So much has been disconnected from what the Carruthers Center is, and we are building our legacy each day. And so we continue to invite the community and our faculty and staff and students in so that they can understand what the Carruthers Center is and where we're going and what our vision is. And so I'm very honored and grateful that we are able to invite these artists into this space. There's legacy, there's history, there's love, there's healing, and we want to continue that in our community. So I thank you all for being here today. We have some light refreshments on the other side if you'd like to grab some, and we'd like for you to continue to be in this space and heal as much as you need to. Shop and enjoy what we've created here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having
That's
the
right.
foresight to
Yeah.
and the ability to continue the legacy, because I was here back in the day.
That's right.
And we need you here, and I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, you are. Yes, I will.
Thank you. Oh,